What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined with me back once again. I guess he was back yesterday, but we're back in Latrobe, so now I don't have to do this alone. By my boy, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. We are here live at St. Vincent College in Latrobe, Pennsylvania for the first day of pads. Like I said yesterday, you get the jitters today. You wake up a little bit with a little bit extra oomph. It was raining. I didn't even care. I already had the Mike Tomlin speech in my head as I was driving up here in the pouring rain. And when something like, this is football weather, this is what we're made for, these are where the squirrels collect the nuts, something like that, plus 4 or 5 Tomlinisms in there, it would have been a good time. I was fired up. The fans were fired up. The players were fired up. And it was a great day. The Steelers suffered a tough loss. We're going to dive into some injury updates, a new injury that is very concerning for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then a very, very impressive day from their backup, potentially competition quarterback in Justin Fields, on top of a few other guys that stood out with the first day of pads on, backs on backers, lineman drills, one-on-ones, so on and so forth. And then as we do every single day, we will answer all of your questions. So make sure that we are tossing them in the chat. I know we're jumping on early, but they got done early. So we're going to come to you as fast as we could and answer as many questions and stay on as long as we possibly can here at St. Vincent College. It's a warm one. It's a rainy one, but it's a good one. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling great. First day of pads. It feels like true football is back in the, I wouldn't say city of Pittsburgh, but in Western Pennsylvania. It's always a nice day whenever you get to say that. Nice day whenever you get to hear backs on backers happened. It's great to hear that Justin Fields, will get into it, doing what he's doing. And obviously, whenever you see George Pickens making one-handed catches, you know football is 100% back.
Yes, I agree. It started right from the jump. They went goal line. They call it 7 shots. Justin Fields, Najee Harris, touchdown. Defense wins a couple. Offense wins a couple. George Pickens, one-handed catch over Joey Porter in a fade route, sends it to 3-3. Justin Fields comes back on the field at the end. The ones versus the ones. And he takes a read option. You saw it coming the whole time, right around the end. And my first thing, immediately, I looked at Mike, at the guy standing next to me, and I go, that's unstoppable. You are not going to be able to beat that in a game. I don't care who you are or what your players are. It's not going to happen. Justin Fields is just too fast and too athletic. But we'll dive into a very good day from Justin Fields first. Let's address some injuries. Russ showed up. He had his helmet on. He did some 7-on-7 stuff, some more individual drills. But for the most part, didn't do much. When it was team drills, he just handed the ball off. Wasn't crazy. I don't know when to expect him fully back on the field, but to be honest with you, I don't think the Steelers are pushing the needle. I feel as if this is going to last maybe another week or so before they actually get him out there. Not totally concerned. Glad that he's out here. It means that it's nothing serious. And I believe the Steelers, in my head, they want to see Justin Fields a little bit, and they're just letting this coast. Even if it's not for this season, it's about next season and the future and what they can get out of him in the time being. Just kind of check him out. Use this as an evaluation to see what their backup quarterback is doing while their starting quarterback is missing some time. But we'll dive into the quarterback competition in a couple of minutes. The other one is the big one. Roman Wilson goes down early in practice, takes a jet sweep to the outside, gets tackled by Anthony Averett. He's a little slow to get up. After that, he's getting checked by trainers. It looks like a left ankle, maybe a left foot injury. Mike Tomlin says it's an ankle and that he's getting further evaluation to see how much time he's going to miss and how serious it is. Looked like he was in a lot of pain, had to get carted off the field, or not off the field, off the sideline, I should say, to the locker room to get evaluated. Not good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Major loss if he is going to miss a significant amount of time. I think the good part here is that if it's not broken, it's early enough in training camp to where he should be able to get over a high ankle sprain, maybe not by the start of the season, but early in the season. It shouldn't be a season-ending injury for Roman Wilson. That being said, I don't know what the actual injury is, and we're still waiting to hear what it is, but there is some upside to, okay, maybe this isn't as detrimental because of the time of year and how early it happened. Hopefully we're wishing all the best for Roman and for that to go smoothly, but we will continue to provide updates as they come in. You saw the Roman injury. We'll dive into the impact. I think it has a significant one on the Steelers, potentially landing a wide receiver. What were your thoughts when he went down?
Yeah, obviously seeing the report is never a good thing, but seeing the way Mike Tomlin was speaking about it just made it seem even worse. It was, yeah, he's injured. Yes, it is an ankle, and it's a matter of how long he's out. That tells me it's not day to day. That tells me it's not, hey, he's going to take the week off and be back next week. That tells
Yeah.
me it's going to be a pretty lengthy injury, or at the very least, something that is going to be bothering him for a lengthy period of time. And you said it's early, and that is a good thing, and I do agree. But at the same time, this is a rookie wide receiver we're talking about, somebody that is going to need to have these reps to get up to speed to the NFL game, especially at full speed, at full pads. The fact that he only got, half a practice, if that, in full pads is not a good thing. And while, yes, he might be back early in the season, it's going to take some time for him to get acclimated, whereas that's what you wanted to be doing in July and August and not in September and October.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a significant step backwards. And he was building momentum. That's the worst part of this is he looked good the last couple of days, like a piece that was going to provide some pretty good talent to the Steelers wide receiver room. It hit the point where the Steelers wide receivers started to look like they were in such a groove with Roman, with Calvin, with Pat Freiermuth and George Pickens and Van Jefferson that you were starting to think like, okay, maybe this is okay. Maybe this will be fine. It's not great. It's not ideal, but maybe they can make it work. Roman goes down. Immediately your head starts going, what's going to happen next? How long is it? And what does it mean? This is a great question. Do you think the injury from Roman will push forward a trade? I don't think the Steelers are active in a trade. I will say this. If Roman is going to miss a significant chunk of time, I'm talking a couple of weeks into the season, maybe a little bit more, yes, it does push a trade because you got rid of Marquez Callaway today, which is, terrible timing. You have to imagine that Marquez asked to be released and then got the news that maybe I shouldn't have asked to be released as of this morning. But if he's gone, you got to have somebody. I would imagine this does push forward a trade a little bit. Again, it's not on the Steelers. They got to find somebody. Nobody's looking to deal anyone right now. It's the end of July. This is not trade season. You have 2 weeks at least before trade season starts. I don't know when it'll happen, but I think it could push a trade forward for the Steelers. But again, that comes with updates to whether or not this is long term or how serious this is or how much time he's going to miss. But I do believe that it's going to impact where the Steelers stand and how much they look to get something done before week 1 so that their wide receiver room doesn't take a massive hit with Roman being down. Let's dive into a massive day from Justin Fields. Outside of Roman Wilson, Justin Fields is the guy that stole the show today. And I have another name for you guys a little bit later that I am excited to share that also stole the show. Killed it. Absolutely killed it today. Like Justin Fields was the guy. There was another guy who isn't going to get as much credit, who deserves more credit. But first, let's answer Michael's question here. Appreciate you as always. Troy Firetown of Stonewall, TJ Watt on back-to-back plays today and one-on-ones. That did happen. Starting right tackle week 1. Also prayers up for Roman Wilson. Was having a good start to camp. Troy Firetown, who did look good in the one-on-ones against TJ Watt, but later in that same drill, he got burnt by Nick Herbig. He got burnt by Kyron Johnson, and then he came back. He had a good rep against Kyron. Overall, Troy has not looked very good. Like, that's the toughest part here, is people want to talk about, like, you got to get Dan Moore out of there. I believe that you do have to get Dan Moore out of there, but Troy looks equally as bad right now. And it's time to sit back and let him develop. And yeah, tossing him in the fire might be the best way to do that. And everybody could have their own opinion there. But right now, if you're just going to go off of where they currently stand, Troy does not look any better than Dan Moore. He looks like more of a risk. And I don't believe he's had a good team rep to this point. He's looked rough. And I think Troy's got a ton of potential and he's going to work out just fine. But right now it's okay. He's a rookie and it's just not a place where he should be pushed into the starting lineup because he hasn't really earned it, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, he has talent, obviously, and that's why the Steelers took him. It's a matter of getting that consistently in all phases of the game.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there. I was
No, you're good.
checking my phone, reading some stuff. Victor got us with a question. We'll answer it a little bit later, but I thought Scotty Miller got released almost instantly. So we'll dive into a little bit of some standouts, but first, Justin Fields, man. Justin Fields stole the show. Went completely perfect when it came to passing the football today. Like, did not miss a pass. Had a great out route to Van Jefferson a little bit down the field. Had a phenomenal fade pass to George Pickens, and everybody's going to talk about a one-handed grab. Yeah, it was a phenomenal catch. Maybe one only George Pickens can make, but the placement of the catch was unbelievable. Fields had two really impressive runs today, one in the end zone, and then the other was around the edge. Everybody's trying to argue with Landon Roberts is going to run him down. No chance Landon Roberts runs him down on that play. Justin gets around the edge on a read option. I'll say this. It's hard to detail everything that Justin did if you're not here and if you're not able to watch the game. But judging from what I've seen the last 2 days of practice, this is the first time that I could sit here. And I've been anti-quarterback battle. I am not a quarterback battle guy this summer. I don't believe the Steelers have one. I think it's all fake. Justin Fields is pushing the envelope a little bit the last 2 days. I don't think he's better than Russ. I don't think he provides more security than Russ. I don't believe he provides more upside this season than Russell Wilson. But I think it's really hard to deny keeping Justin Fields on the sideline the entire season and not trying to find some way to get him involved in this offense. Even if it's just a couple plays a game, I don't know how you don't do it. I believe that if it's 3rd and 2 and you're on your own 5-yard line, you run a read option because it's going to work. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you avoid it. Justin Fields, in my eyes, is making a case for himself, if not this season, next season, which is huge because he has come such a long way from the first day of camp. It's crazy. I cannot explain to you guys how bad he was. He was atrocious the first 48 hours at St. Vincent College. Maybe it's things are slowing down. Maybe it's more time with Arthur Smith and Tom Arth. Maybe it's the playbook is becoming more clear to him. Maybe it's the fact that he's finally getting some reps with his wide receivers and things are working better and things are slowing down. Maybe he's trusting the offense. Who knows? But the last 2 days, he looks really good, and this is good momentum. And if I'm Russell Wilson, if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm kind of trying to get back on the field because at this point, the longer this goes, the more impressive Justin Fields looks, the more you got to start talking about it. And at that point, Russ has nothing to stand on. So it becomes headlines you probably don't want. I say all this as a guy who was not here, as a guy who was an observer from just my observations. What in your head does Justin, how many days in a row does Justin have to have a good practice before this becomes a quarterback competition?
Well, the longer that Russell sits out, you make a great point. The longer he sits out, the more the door opens for Justin to turn this into a real quarterback competition. But at the end of the day, no matter how long Russell is sitting out or being held back in practices, he's going to get that opportunity. No matter what Fields does, they're going to give Russell Wilson that opportunity because that is what they brought him in for. And you mentioned, he might not have very much to stand on. He has 9 Pro Bowls and a Super Bowl to stand on. I understand the Denver Broncos years were bad, but Russell Wilson does have a pedigree, does have capabilities, and he did have a pretty decent season last year with Denver. So no matter what Justin Fields does, Russell Wilson will get an opportunity. But the more he can do in the meantime, Justin Fields, that is, the more open the Steelers are going to be to saying, all right, well, maybe we're going to keep it closer to 50-50. Maybe it's 60-40 instead of our initial plan was 80-20 when it comes to reps between Wilson and Fields. Maybe the door opens a little bit more. So the more days that Fields does this, especially if he starts putting weeks together, the more open they're going to be to giving Fields more opportunities as camp progresses and as the season begins.
Yeah. I agree. The longer this goes on, the more reps you're going to get. And there are people in comments saying, Russ went 6 for 6 in 7 shots. Russ did play some 7-on-7 and had some good balls. And it was not a bad day for Russell Wilson. That being said, you got to do some team drills. It's tough to judge a quarterback when there's no pressure or nothing around you. And I have no worries about Russell Wilson whatsoever. I'm just saying that that's not a full practice. And the terms very, very limited were used by members of the Pittsburgh Steelers today when it was describing Russell Wilson's participation. So very, very limited is how we are going to describe Russell Wilson's day with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Justin Fields, look at, I was a guy that, and I'm getting called out in the comments as well. Like the other day, you said Fields has no chance. That's where I stood. And then today happened, and you're going, oh, okay. This one's impressive. I still think Russell Wilson gives you the best opportunity to make a playoff run and hunt for a Super Bowl and make the most out of this team, so on and so forth. I'll say that getting Justin Fields involved, this is the first time that I'm looking at it and saying, the last 2 days are the first time that I'm looking at it and saying, yeah, you should have some packages. You should have some Justin Fields packages. I know 2 quarterbacks is too many quarterbacks. I don't know how you utilize them. I don't think you do like a Cordell Stewart to put him out at wide receiver situation, but you want to run a couple of read options. You want to let Justin Fields have an opportunity to throw the football once or twice a game. Yeah, I'm all about it. I think it works well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm excited to see where it continues moving forward. A couple of other guys that stood out, and then we will dive into all of your questions. The big one here, the big kahuna. And when I say that, he is massive as well. Darnell Washington stole the freaking show today, man. He is so undervalued. It is nuts. The last 2 days, he has caught a combined, I think, 6 or 7 passes, which is big for Darnell Washington. He looks smoother as a route runner. I said it yesterday that one of the coaches was like, oh, dude, great, phenomenal route running. He looks better as a pass catcher. Now, last year, he looked good the first week of training camp, too, so you got to kind of temper expectations. Backs on backers, dominant. Absolutely dominant. It wasn't even fair. Like, it wasn't. Guys were exhausted after trying as hard as humanly possible to push Darnell Washington 3 yards backwards. And Darnell would stand up afterwards and just be like, all right, next one. We're just going to do the next one. It was like it was nothing. It was like child play. It was ridiculous. Darnell looks great. He was very, very impressive today. A guy that I think if he could stay healthy, if the knee issues don't become a problem like they did last year, Darnell's a guy that's going to be involved much more in this offense. And the Steelers have been using 2 tight end sets regularly. It is a lot of 2 tight end sets here. So Darnell's going to get a lot of play. I'm a big fan of Darnell Washington, especially after today, especially after the last 2 days. He looks phenomenal. And then running with him is Pat Freiermuth, who had another great day. This guy continues to stack great days. He's going to be a monster. Like, I was talking to someone today, another writer today, and we both came to the agreement that Pat Freiermuth, like, he might put himself in like top 10, top 5 tight ends in the NFL this season, depending on how well Russell Wilson is able to find him on the field. He looks that good. He's kind of unstoppable. That's the 2 big standouts for the day. The other 2, I'll toss you a couple names here. George Pickens, obviously, you come up with that catch. Come on. How are you not going to be added to that list? Peyton Wilson was another one. Him and Jaylen Warren went head-to-head in backs on backers. Peyton got him once with the first one, a really crazy spin, looked super athletic. Jaylen came back. I will say he gave him a little rookie moment. He hit him so hard, Peyton kind of stood up. Like, he hit him and Peyton was, and then kept going. Trying to argue he won the rep. He did not. Jaylen, clear as day, won that rep. Jeremiah Moon is the other one. Jeremiah Moon, Mike Tomlin gave him a shout out in backs on backers, making sure he was lined up against some big names. He had a good day. He definitely had a good day, put himself in advantage to kind of make some noise for the Steelers and maybe earn a place on this roster. Thought they had a good day. That's my list there. Darnell Washington tops it. Pat Freiermuth, George Pickens, Peyton Wilson, and Jeremiah Moon for you.
Yeah, the one that obviously everybody's talking about right now is Darnell Washington. And the one thing that I will say is everybody always says year 1 to year 2 is the biggest physical leap for a lot of these NFL players. Darnell Washington was a monster before he even stepped foot on an NFL field. So if he takes even a minimal leap into year 2, that makes him one of the most dangerous players on the field, in my opinion. So the fact that he's doing that, he's now in a system that, surprise, surprise, an Arthur Smith system, the first day of pads, shows and highlights the tight end play. If he can be able to put it all together, Darnell Washington, I'm so excited for his season in 2024. He was a guy that I was jumping up and down when the Steelers drafted him, because I was saying, not only is he going to help their running game, which is whether they believed it or not going into last season, we don't need to go into the coordinator. Their identity was running the football. Now that they know their identity, they have a guy to execute it in Washington, and it's going into his second season. I'm super excited for what he's going to do in 2024.
Yeah, he's going to be hopefully a big piece of this offense. you're spot on with the excitement and where things can go, but we also are always under the interpretation that it's a one day at a time situation here when it comes to training camp, because things today could be a good day, tomorrow could be a good day, the day after that could stink, so it is. I think the upside this year is big with him. Arthur Smith is built for Darnell Washington's built for Arthur Smith. I don't know how to say it, but whatever way it is, chicken egg, doesn't matter. Arthur Smith, Darnell Washington, that is a match made in heaven. It's some good ones. That's my list for today. That's some Justin Fields talk, a little bit of injury updates. We got a lot of questions. I want you guys to keep tossing more in here as we can answer all of them before we head out of here. What do we got?
Let's kick it off with Austin Rhodes, and you kind of alluded to it. He said, I'm a big Peyton Wilson fan, but heard he got a couple of welcome to the NFL moments today. Was there anyone besides Jaylen Warren?
Let's look at the notes here. Backs on backers, 41. No, that was the big one, to be honest with you. That was the big one. Aaron Shumklin shut him down one time, and I don't know if it was a welcome to the NFL moment, but backs on backers, Aaron Shumklin, it was an impressive one. It was an impressive win for Aaron. Really held his own. Peyton is a guy, he needs to put on a little bit of weight, but I also don't think that he's going to be utilized that way. Like, if you're sending Peyton Wilson up the middle to go find the quarterback, you better hope he's fast enough not to get hit by a center, because he's just not that big. He's going to be utilized. He's just so fast. He's a gazelle out there. That's where you're going to utilize him. So I think he'll be fine. He did have a couple of welcome to the NFL moments, but I'm not super worried. Everybody needs welcome to the NFL moments. It's better to get them over with early.
Yeah, every single player gets one. And
yeah, everyone.
One that I'm going to ask about now might have gotten one today as well. Jordan wants to know, how's Ryan Watts looked now that pads have come on?
Ryan Watts has made a complete shift to safety. I don't know how good he's looked or how bad he's looked. There's not really much to report on him. He hasn't really stood out in a good or bad way most of training camp. He's working with just the third team, so it's tough to, when you're going up against Kyle Allen as the quarterback and John Rice Plumlee as the quarterback, there's not really a ton to go out there and judge. I wouldn't say he looks good or bad. There's just not much to report right now.
Let's go to Victor's question that baffled you a couple minutes ago. And he says, is Josiah Scott being released fully push Beanie Bishop to the slot corner position?
Yeah. I believe Josiah Scott, if I had to guess, Josiah Scott and Marquez Callaway both asked for their release. They both saw the writing on the wall that they weren't going to make the 53-man roster. Better to get an opportunity elsewhere early before you get stuck here and then you get released right at the end and then you don't have a shot to make another roster. Josiah Scott kind of saw it. I think Beanie Bishop is the guy right now. Deshaun Elliott's going to be the guy that starts, but Beanie, it's tough to say Beanie's not going to make this roster and just be the backup until Cam comes back.
Let's go to Paul's question. He says, Noah, Nick, how do you feel about Jalen putting Patrick Queen on his backside? Enjoying the show from the UK. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, I appreciate you. That's awesome. I wouldn't say put him on his back. Here's my take. Okay. I don't know what happened. And Jaylen Warren is a phenomenal pass. He's as good at passing in the backfield as it comes, or blocking in the backfield as it comes. I don't know if anybody told Patrick Queen that he was supposed to go full speed in these drills, because he definitely was not. It was a light jog at first, and then he kind of ramped it up in the second one, but it was not. It was at no moments a 100% I'm going all out there type of play for Patrick Queen. Again, Jalen's going to win that rep either way, but I was kind of hoping for a little bit more from Patrick. Didn't get it. I think Pat's going to be just fine. He looks good out here.
Let's go to Victor's question, who says, do you think they're waiting on an extension for Pat and Cam because of a wide receiver trade and money, or does that not have any relevance to the other?
I think the Cam actually helps the wide receiver trade. Pat doesn't. Pat, you're gonna add some money this season. I don't think Pat gets a contract extension before the start of the season this year. Cam does. I could see Cam's happening at any moment now. But when it comes to Pat's, I believe it's going to happen next year from both sides. The Steelers want to see how he looks in Arthur Smith's offense, and Pat wants to have a phenomenal year so that he earns more money. Makes sense for both sides. I think Cam gets done soon. I don't think either of them have anything to do with the wide receiver, though.
Let's move on over to OS's question, who says, I know we love to dream with Tyreek Hill and Brandon Ayuk, but why don't the Steelers get a solid number 2 wide receiver?
Look, I'm in 100% agreement there. Go get somebody. I don't know who it is, whether it's Cortland Sutton, which is not available anymore, or I don't know, like a Tyler Lockett or somebody. There are a lot of options. None of them seem to be available. I agree with you 100%. Go get a wide receiver 2. I think a wide receiver 1, like if you want to go get Brandon Ayuk, I think it works out because I think that's a guy that you could stick around forever. But I agree. Go get a number 2. They just don't seem to be available right now.
Jordan wants to know what wide receivers are holding out among other teams that you know of.
CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, those are the big ones. I don't know anybody else, to be honest. Those are the ones that you talk about the most. Those are the ones that are making headlines. I will say the thing being here in Latrobe is you hear some rumbles, but not a lot because you're spending your time fully engulfed in the Steelers, so you don't really get to make those phone calls that you typically make throughout the day.
Lifted One says, based on everything you've seen at this moment, is Justin Fields better than Kenny Pickett?
Yes. Yes. It's not. Look, Kenny is a good quarterback, and I think he'd be fine as a backup. I think he got drafted too high, and the expectations were too high for him. Justin Fields is like, the difference is Justin Fields is a first-round pick in any NFL draft. Kenny Pickett's a third-round pick in most NFL drafts. So the upside of Justin Fields is massive, and Justin's got his moments, man. He reads a football field very slowly. I hope that continues to get better. It's looked better the last 2 days. Kenny, just as slow. The difference is Justin could run for 80 yards. Kenny can't. So that's the biggest difference. Justin's got way more upside than Kenny Pickett.
Let's go to Victor's question. He says, how did our famous fullback Jack Coletto do today?
He didn't get as many reps as I wanted him to. Like, they did backs on backers. I think he got out there one time against Mark Robinson and he won the rep. I would have loved to see him 40 times against every linebacker back to back and continue to play well. So there wasn't as much Jack Coletto as there should have been. You know how like the SNL meme, I need more cowbell. I need more Jack Coletto out here and some pads. That's what I need from the Steelers.
Let's go to another rookie. Jamar wants to know what's up with Logan Lee, Steelers draft pick from 2024.
Logan Lee had one nice play the other day. Today he was kind of quiet, wasn't much to report on. But again, it's just opportunity. Like, you're not getting a lot of opportunity. The thing with Logan Lee is that he is so far on the depth chart right now that he's probably going to make the roster, and he's got a bunch of upside. But DeMarvin Leal looks good. Isaiah Loudermilk looks good. Montravius Adams looks good. You got Dean Lowry coming back at one point. Like, there's just too many bodies to say, oh, Logan Lee is going to have a spot and a role on this defense. It's just not going to happen. So you'll get more looks at him, but he's just not getting the amount of reps to kind of say whether or not he's playing well or not playing well.
Chad has a question about Arthur Smith's offense, saying, how does the offensive playbook look, or say formation-wise? A lot of under center formations like the Titans, or does it look more like what he ran in Atlanta?
To be honest with you, I'm not educated enough on either of those offenses to say this is exactly what he did. I dove into a little bit of Arthur Smith tape. I take that back. I dove into like 2 nights worth of Arthur Smith, like hardcore film watching for both of those. But I watched a little bit of everything, and it was definitely more out of shotgun in Atlanta, but different quarterback systems, different running back systems, different position groups. Here, it's a little bit of mix. Like, you got a good chunk of under center, but you also have a good chunk of shotgun. I'll tell you that it is a lot of 2 tight end sets, a lot of read options, that kind of stuff. You're getting some zones. You're starting to get the zone runs in there for the Steelers. That wasn't really evident the first couple of days. They're starting to become more evident now. So it's starting to develop, but it's a lot of big man sets for sure.
Let's go to Vibin with the Dogs, who says, how much should we offer Michael Thomas to come play for the Steelers? With Roman's injury, I don't think it would hurt. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't know what Roman's injury is going to hold him out for. If it's a significant chunk of time, yeah, you are right. Call Michael Thomas, offer him $2-3 million, $4 million. Say, come play for us. Maybe that works. But I still think you try to trade for somebody first. If not, you make the moves, and Michael Thomas could be on that list. But yeah, Roman Wilson's injury could definitely push the needle there. And Michael Thomas he's not the best name, but he's not a bad name for sure.
Let's go to Pittsburgh, or Pitt Sevenberg, I should say. A couple people have asked this question, but he was first on it. Says, how is Corey Trice looking now that the pads have come on?
You just don't know. He's like Ryan Watts. He's like Logan Lee. He's working with the third team. He's barely getting any reps. It's really hard to judge Corey Trice right now. You just haven't seen enough of him. Look at a year ago today, or a year ago, the first day of pads, he tore his ACL, and he said today, like, hey, man, I'm back out here. That feels good. So that's step one. It's too early to judge when it comes to Corey Trice. I think eventually he'll start to ramp up a little bit more, but for right now, he's a third stringer, and you're not seeing much.
Big Mabe says, haven't heard Jaylen Warren's name called too much. Is Najee looking that good?
Najee does look good. Jaylen also looks good. My thing is, just like last year when Najee Harris barely took any reps throughout training camp, that's going to be both of them by the end of training camp here. There's just no reason for both of them to be on the field, for either of them to be on the field in significant amount of snaps. If this offense is going to be run heavy, you want to preserve both of those guys, and that's what the Steelers are going to do. They're keeping Jaylen on the sideline. They're keeping Najee on the sideline simply because they're not looking to get anybody hurt at this time of the year, and those two are probably the most important pieces to that offense. So it's not that either of them are looking better than the other. It's just that the Steelers are trying to keep them both fresh.
Let's go to Austin's question here, who says, if Justin continues to show up and keeps being consistent and improving, when do you bench Russell Wilson, and what would it actually take?
It would take Russ deserving to be benched. I think that's the thing here is Justin could look really good and there could be a quarterback competition, but if Russ wins the competition, he'd have to lose the starting job, not vice versa. That's what pole position means, is that the Steelers firmly believe Russell Wilson could be the guy that leads them to a Super Bowl. And until he proves that he won't be, they probably won't make Justin Fields and this quarterback competition a real competition. That being said, I have full faith that Russ is going to be just fine. I do think he needs to start getting out here and continue to ramp up and play some team stuff and throw the football with some pressure and so on and so forth. But for the time being, I'm not totally concerned about Russell Wilson and what he could bring to the field. He's been a reliable quarterback in this league for a long time. So yeah, like, is Justin Fields the more exciting one? Probably, but Russ has all the potential to be the more reliable one, and the Steelers are looking for reliable.
Let's go to Curtis's question here. He says, how does the running back out of Georgia look, Daijun Edwards?
Yeah, Daijun Edwards is getting very minimal reps, and it stinks because I want to see some Daijun Edwards, but Greg Ward. Wow, old name. Jonathan Ward is getting most of the backup running back reps, and he doesn't look terrible. Aaron Shumplin looks pretty good as well. He's getting a lot of reps. LaMichael Pirine is getting a lot of reps. Edwards is the last of the list right now, so I would say expectations that he makes the roster are very low, but it's still early, so you never know.
Let's go over to Mike's and just update everybody that joined a little bit later for a quick update. He says, sorry, Noah, I'm late to the show, but question is, how bad is Roman's injury?
Yeah, we don't know yet, but Mike Tomlin seems to sound like it's not going to be a couple of days where he's just back on the field and everything's fine. They're probably going to do some tests and run some MRIs before they make a final decision and release some updates, but we'll have more tomorrow for sure. Today it's we'll wait and see. Didn't look good, I'll say that. He definitely looked like he was in pain. Getting carted off definitely stinks, but probably oh, my ankle's hurt. All right, come on, we're going to walk up this big hill to go get looked at. That's probably not what you're looking to do. So getting carted off might just be a little bit of an over exaggeration by everybody who's watching. I don't know. We'll see. Right now, I would not look at it like a light injury. I would just say it's probably not detrimental until they say it's detrimental.
Let's go to Eric Santition's question, who says, what's going on with the Brandon Ayuk deal? Is there any timeline on a yes or no?
My timeline remains the same. It's the beginning to, or the middle to the end of August. Like, the closer we get to week one, the more this is going to heat up and things are going to become crazy. We are back in the lull. That's what happens. You know what I mean? Holding out of training camp. Cool. All right. Now it's sinking. They're going to get a Trent Williams deal done. It's going to heat back up. I could see the end of August as like the timeline of when things could go down, whether it's a deal, whether it's he's playing for the same contract that he's on, or he gets a trade and he gets out of there. So we'll see.
Let's go to Jordan's question, who says, who are the losers today if there were any?
Losers today if there were any. That's really tough, actually. That's a really that's a tough one. Let's look at the notebook here. So I would say Patrick Queen was a loser today, which stinks because like he wasn't like, he's not. Patrick Queen is still going to be a phenomenal inside linebacker, but he didn't have, like, he should have balled out in backs versus backers. He didn't. That was a bit disappointing. Kyle Allen looked atrocious today. This was bad. Like, we talked about how good Kyle Allen looked yesterday, and he looked bad today. Threw an interception. Should have thrown 2 or 3. It was a rough day for Roman Wilson. Besides that, couple of linemen that nobody really knows about didn't really play the greatest. And I don't know. I guess maybe you could toss like Peyton Wilson in there as like a winner and a loser because he had some good reps, but he probably should have had more. I don't know. It's tough to say losers on the first day pads, but I'll start to kind of keep track of those moving forward.
Let's go to Robert's question, who says, is Peyton Wilson going to take over as inside linebacker 2?
No. Landon Roberts is that guy. Peyton Wilson's going to be like the inside linebacker 3, come off the bench, make a bunch of noise, be utilized in passing downs. But Landon Roberts is a stud, man. 10 years in this league, a starter for most of them. He's not a superstar by no means, and Peyton Wilson hopefully will be a superstar at one point in his career. But for right now, Landon Roberts is so reliable. You're not taking that guy off the field.
Let's go to Sajans, who says, I think I'm the only one, but I don't think we should bring Michael Thomas in here, mainly just seeing the diva he was acting like in New Orleans. Do you think Jarvis Landry could be a name to look into?
Jarvis Landry is an interesting one. The difference in Jarvis Landry is that he didn't play last season, and, he's getting up there in age. It's been a while since he's been an impact player on a team. At what point do you just kind of like, is the NFL dream over? Like, is that, all right, we did it. We had a phenomenal career. It's probably the end. And I like Jarvis Landry a lot, but a lot of injuries. I don't know. I don't know if he's even on the mind of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but definitely an interesting name. For sure, an interesting name to bring up.
Vernon wants to know, how is the kick return and punt return squads, and who is returning as of right now?
Yeah, there are a lot of names testing out the return position, but Calvin Austin and Jalen Warren seem to be the favorites right now. Quez Watkins is one as well. Scotty Miller's taking some. John Rice Plumlee still back there, which is awesome. And you got guys like Cam Sutton taking some, so on and so forth. But Calvin Austin's going to be the starter on kicks. If Cordero Patterson's healthy, they hope he's back there, but you got to practice at some point before you could be out there in week 1. Jalen Warren and Calvin would take it if not.
Let's go over to Ryan's question. He says, by the end of Broderick Jones and James Washington's rookie contracts, with Zach Frazier and Troy getting time to gel, could the Steelers have the best blocking front for a run game in the entire NFL?
So I think you mean Darnell Washington, and yes. Zach Frazier is going to be a monster. He hasn't taken first team reps yet, but I just feel it in my bones that he's going to be good. Broderick's so good. Darnell's going to be a freak this season, especially at the blocking side of things. I do. I really do. I really, really do. You hope Troy Fautanu turns out well. We'll wait and see. And you got to hope that Mason McCormick and Spencer Anderson turned into something, but they both looked good today. So I would say there's a possibility for sure. The Steelers are building for that. So we'll see.
Mentioning Darnell Washington, Robert wants to know, is he going to be used as a red zone threat finally this year?
I hope so. To be honest with you, he has not been utilized as a red zone threat through a week and a day of training camp. So, or not a week, almost a week of training camp. I don't know. I'm waiting for it. I think so. I hope so. He's utilized as a blocker in the red zone, which is also equally as good. But I think that you definitely need to put your 6'7" tight end in the back of the end zone and throw the football up to him and let him come down with it for sure.
Let's go to Austin's question, who says, how's Mason McCormick doing so far in camp?
He looked good today. He did. He looked good. He in the one-on-ones, he went 2 or 3 against Isaiah Loudermilk, which is impressive. Isaiah Loudermilk's a reliable veteran. So I think that was a good day for him. Want to see more team stuff, obviously, and today's the first day of pads, so you're not judging offensive linemen until today. But I thought he looked good, held his own. Talked to Isaiah Loudermilk after practice. He said that, he was doing all right. He was back there winning some reps. So I thought he looked good for sure.
Let's go to Austin's question. He says, would Pittsburgh be interested in a receiver like Terry McLaurin of the Washington Commanders?
I mean, yeah, why not? But the problem is Washington looking to get rid of him. That's the thing here. It's not, none of it has anything to do with the Steelers' interest. They would make a trade for anybody right now. If you called them with Tyreek Hill or DK Metcalf or Devontae Adams or Terry McLaurin or Brandon Ayuk or any of them, they'd say, yeah, let's get a deal done and let's make it happen. These teams don't want to give these guys up right now. There's just nobody on the trade block. The Steelers have nobody to go out and get because everything is just so quiet. And I don't think Washington's looking to give up Terry because there's really no reason to give him up right now.
Let's go to Austin's question, who says, do you feel the Steelers need a fourth edge rusher?
I like David Perales and Jeremiah Moon. I think they're fine there. I want to see how good they are as run stuffers because Nick Herbig isn't a run guy. He's got to be down there on passing downs, and Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt aren't going to be out there every play. I would like to see how they develop, but I want to give both of them a shot. I think they have potential and that they could both be utilized well, and they're both good special teamers. So I say see what you have in those guys. If not, maybe you sign a veteran that, is sitting there in free agency.
Let's go to Robert Whitehead's question, who says, how's Minkah Fitzpatrick looked so far in camp?
I mean, he looks like Minkah, man. He looks like Minkah. Like, that's the thing, is he's just out there playing football. TJ's out there playing football. Cam's out there playing football. Everybody looks good. Like, the secondary looks very good. Very good. There are moments where the offense wins, obviously, but it looks very good. And, practices are designed for the offense to win always. So the defense having their moments and shutting these guys down look good. And today, Justin Fields led that offense to the best day they've had. But up until today, there hasn't been a day where the defense hasn't won the day. So that tells you all you really need to know about that group.
Let's go to Robert's question, who says, is DeMarvin Leal going to finally break through, or is it time to let him walk this year?
So far, DeMarvin Leal has looked good. He had another good day today. He did lose 3 in a row against Spencer Anderson in one-on-ones. One was hands to the face, so maybe 2 out of 3 of them. But he's, besides that, look good. He's slimmer, kind of a little bit more athletic. Just looks like he has an extra pep in his step. It's early, but there's optimism that he could finally have maybe not a breakout year, but take a step forward.
Let's go back to Vernon, who has another question here saying, not a popular player, but how has Dan Moore looked? Would he start the season if he has a solid camp?
Yeah, Dan Moore looks not great. He really doesn't look good at all, but neither does Troy Fautanu. So that's the problem, is you have 2 guys. Neither of them look like they're ready to start or should be starting. And that's where the Steelers stand, is Dan Moore is going to be more reliable. So you're going to keep him out there because a rookie, even if it's a first-round pick, has more red flags than a veteran who's done this for a couple of years. But I wouldn't be super pumped about either of them. I don't think either of them have looked very good in training camp. We'll see if it changes. But right now, Dan Moore's performance, I would say.
Let's go to Scott Davis's question, who says, what are the chances the Steelers are drafting a quarterback in the first round or trading up in the first round to draft a quarterback?
Yeah, I would say right now it's unknown, but there's a possibility for sure. Definitely. Sorry, I'm getting updates on Roman Wilson. Nothing to report, unfortunately. I would say right now the Steelers' chances are, I don't know, decent. If I had to label where the Steelers quarterback situation is next year and who are the favorites to start and in order, it would go Russell Wilson being the starter in week 1 a year from now, but I would say less than a 50% chance that happens. Justin Fields being the starter a year from now, but I would say less than Russell Wilson. And then it would be drafting a quarterback, which I would say maybe less than those guys. So it's still a major wait and see. Drafting a quarterback makes sense, but only if these other quarterbacks don't work out and you can't figure something out for them.
Let's go to St. Eltro, who says, how did Zach Frazier look today in his first day in pads?
Yeah, he looked good. He looked good. He hasn't taken first team reps. I want to see him with the first team. I want to see him go against Keanu Benton, but he didn't, he doesn't look bad out there. He looks physical. He looks ready to compete. I expect him to be the starting center in week 1. But again, I kind of want to see what he looks like against the first team. And so far we haven't gotten to see that. So that's kind of on the Steelers.
Robert wants to know, what is your opinion? Was the trade for Dante Jackson worth what we gave up?
Yes. Dante Jackson looks great. Like, he looks so good. He can keep up with George Pickens. He's the fastest member of this secondary. I think he's a great cornerback too, next to Joey Porter Jr. And he's still young enough that you could say, hey, Dante could be a piece of this defense for a couple of years. I love the Dante Jackson trade. Obviously, you messed up if you're the Steelers by not replacing Deontay Johnson, but giving up Deontay Johnson in a year where you were looking to get rid of the attitude issues, fix the locker room, and make sure that the defense was stout. I think that all three of those boxes were checked. Plus, they're saying Deontay hasn't been playing great out in Carolina. I think Deontay is a great person and a great wide receiver, and he gets a lot of bad rep. But if you're just going off performance, Dante's having the better camp. So we'll say yes.
Let's go to Etius Coleman, who says, who do you think can be our new Mighty Mouse, Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson?
I think both of them. I think both of them could look really good this season and be utilized and have key roles to the Steelers offense. I would say both of those guys. Connor Hayward would also be another one. Little dude, but for his position, but can make some noise.
Let's go to Robert, who says, back to Minkah. Can you tell a difference in Minkah's play yet? Is he back to Minkah ball at camp?
I wouldn't say Minkah ball yet. I want to see more Minkah. You're not putting Minkah out there all the time, but you're also not really going 110% if you're Minkah. Minkah's the dude that chases you down every single play, but the offense is not throwing it to Minkah Fitzpatrick. Like if Justin Fields or Kyle Allen backs up and they go, there's Minkah, their immediate reaction is, where are the rest of my options? Where is everybody else on the football field? So it'll be more Minkah ball during the season. Right now, this offense is not throwing his way, which is a good thing.
Let's go to Crab Gravy, who says, do you think Rodney Williams makes the 53-man roster this year?
I think it's tough. I love Hot Rod, man. He is a great dude. He might be my favorite person in that locker room. He is a joy to be around, and I think he's a good talent. But I think it's doubtful that he makes 53-man roster just because Jack Coletto, if you keep a fullback, that replaces him. I don't know how many wide receivers are going to utilize, but I don't know. Dealing with the injury now, too, it's tough. I hope he stays to the practice squad. I think he's very useful as a practice squad guy and a backup option. But I don't know. I think it's unlikely where we stand right now, which stinks because I kind of liked him on the 53-man last year.
That's a wrap for questions today, then.
That's all we got. All right, guys. With that said, we are going to head out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out everywhere you get your podcasts. As always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. It's only Tuesday. We got a full week of pads, which is just the best. It's just the best. We will be back tomorrow live from St. Vincent College here in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. With that said, enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.